So good to be back here on the TEDx stage. Mainly because I can share with you something that I strongly believe in. And it goes something like this. We are at the mercy of our own minds unless we learn to broaden our perspective. You know, some of us are already experiencing an empowering way of thinking. Some of us are already experiencing new ways of functioning, where the focus is mainly on taking responsibility for our own lives. Not so long ago, this guy contacted me. His name is Vincent Corver. He's a Grammy-nominated concert pianist. And he had found my Instagram profile, my coaching Instagram profile, and we had a discussion because he was telling me that my coaching method was the missing link to his program. And then I asked him, like, what do you do? And of course, besides being an artist, he has a program which helps young artists to unravel their talent because he already knows how difficult it is to make it in this world. He wants to help people to overcome the difficulties that he had to face. I think that's really cool. And he was telling me, to quote his words exactly, that my ideas had struck him like a hammer on the head. So when we were talking, we were actually talking about this one idea that people expect to be successful at once. They want to be happy, they want to be successful, and then they go out there and then they get real, and then they realize that it's not that easy. And you know, you just have to go on social media for 10 minutes and you're gonna know what I'm talking about. Like, it's everywhere. It's like happiness. It's important to be happy all the time. No bad vibe, just good vibes and all that. And this is actually the thing that leads to disappointment in the end. So what was basically the idea, that missing information that we were talking about with Vincent? It was this. First of all, we have to have a base. And our base is to appreciate the negative thoughts and the emotions that we face on a daily basis. If we don't know how to deal with that, then we have a problem. If we learn how to deal with that, then on that we can build later on with positive thinking. So, you know, I didn't really come up with all this. I've had my own share of issues, and my work-related goal actually led me to Barcelona. My nephew, he lived there for 2 years, and he had a friend there who was a trauma coach. And, you know, since I really like to experience on myself new things and new coaching methods, I thought I would give him a call and ask him if he's willing to talk to me. So I told him in a funny way that, hey, I have more issues than a Vogue magazine, can you coach me? And he said, yeah, of course. So 2 months later, I was in Barcelona, knocking on his door. That's when we actually met for the first time in person. And I underwent more than 30 days of coaching session with Otto Aller, who is from Venezuela, but lives in Barcelona. So before we started the coaching, there were a couple of rules. And I'm glad we talked about these rules in advance, because otherwise it would have been horrible. So the rules were the following. I am open to the possibility that there is more than what I perceive right now. I am open to the possibility that my version of the story is actually causing my conflict, my inner and outer conflict. I am willing to dedicate myself fully to this coaching session, or this coaching process, basically, in order to have maximum results. I am willing to adapt an overview perspective, which means I'm not going to judge others in the scenes that we're going to talk about, and I'm also not going to judge myself. I am willing to look into the possibility that there is a hidden message for me in all of my negative emotions and thoughts that I'm experiencing. I am ready to let go of any feelings of victimhood in any situation. I'm ready to challenge all the things that I believe in now, right now. And I'm ready to get real and tell the truth. And the truth hurts. I can't tell, yeah, he's laughing. I can't tell you that there weren't moments where I felt like hitting him, but I had to realize that it was only because he had shown me the things that I didn't want to see about myself. And it caused me such anger you cannot imagine. But there's no progress unless you get real. Also, I'm also coaching, and in the meantime, my coaching clients ask me, actually it's a very frequent question, they ask me, okay, when I do this coaching session, does this mean that from now on I will not have these negative emotions and feelings anymore? And my answer is, nope, you will still have them. So they ask me, then what's the point? And the point is to know how to look at these things differently than you did before. So sometimes, actually not sometimes, but I would say all the time, we over-empower one area of our lives, and then that means we disempower some other area of our lives. And when we do this, we're going to create a void, which is going to make us do crazy things, like cause ourselves some drama or even some trauma. And like everything in nature, also us humans, we strive for balance. So when we're out of balance, something for sure is going to happen that will bring us back to our balance. And by balance, you can also say by getting real to yourself. The big damage that we're doing to ourselves is when we think that our emotions, our negative emotions are bad, and only our positive emotions are good. Because then we take away the message, then we take away the lesson that these negative emotions are here to tell us. And we take away the possibility to grow. And this is something so cool that Otto Aller told me, and I try to remind myself every now and then when I'm delusional or when I'm building up my bubble around my head, that the pain that I'm experiencing is just showing me how far I am from reality. So it's basically the pain is the distance between my expectations and what is actually there. Yeah, so denial is good, you know. You can stick your head in the sand for a while, but when you take out your head, then it's going to be painful. So we can choose to live life like this, and the fact is that a lot of people actually live their lives like this. But they take away the possibility from themselves to grow and to learn and to live life to the full potential. I know this sounds weird, but seriously, negative emotions, they can teach us so much, a lot more than the positive emotions. Those are good feelings, and negative emotions, of course, you know, it's painful. Like, who wants to deal with that? Nobody. I don't think everybody does. I don't like it. I hate it. But in a fearful situation, for instance, because, you know, I'm afraid of a lot of things. I'm afraid of flying, so I usually, when I'm on a plane, then I usually do these coaching sessions on myself. And I like to ask myself, so what is my fear of flying, for instance, trying to make me do that I wouldn't do if I wouldn't be afraid of flying? And this mentality puts your brain in a different perspective. In a perspective where you can look at yourself from outside and you do not identify yourself with the problem anymore. And that's really important, because when you tell yourself, I'm looking, when you tell yourself, there is something here that I should see, then you are going to find it. It's just it's as easy as that. Well, technology. So Otto Aller is going to be on stage soon, so we can laugh here together. So we can continue living our lives with the head in the sand. But the thing is that when you don't appreciate what the message is, then life will always give you another chance, because life is so generous. And usually it's going to give it to you in the form of another person and in the form of a different situation. So how was coaching in Barcelona, actually, you might ask? Otto Aller asked me this really cool question that sounded like, is there an event in your life that you wish it would have happened differently than it did? So, and I first heard this question, I was thinking, no, actually no, because I am what I am today thanks to everything that has happened to me up until now. But then with the help of my coach, I was digging a little bit deeper, and he asked me to find or identify a negative emotional charge in these situations. And I really asked myself if it still hurts that I didn't get my way in some of these events. Did it still hurt for, being abandoned in a situation when I was in need of love or care? And does it still hurt that I'm not accepted by some people for the way I am? And the truth was that it still hurt. So then I went further and I asked myself, could it be that because of these emotions all still there, I actually created a fence around myself? Could it be that subconsciously, because of these emotions, I am going to do everything possible to avoid feeling like this again? And could it be that exactly because of these emotions, I am actually not getting in life what I want the most? And then we examined these three very painful stuff: resentment, shame, and guilt. Because we identified that in most situations, and not just in mine, but most clients' situation, resentment, shame, or guilt was at the ground of everything. So what is resentment? It's me wanting you to live life according to my values, okay? So for instance, expectations are resentments waiting to happen. What is shame? Shame is something we don't want anyone to know, because we are afraid that they are going to judge us exactly in the way we would judge them in a similar situation. And like Brené Brown says, she has a very good quote. It says, shame derives its power from being unspoken. And guilt is the feeling that we cause more pain than pleasure. And what is the interpretation of everything, of all this, of the resentment, of the shame, and of the guilt? It's, I'm not good enough. I believe that going through painful situations is truly worth it if you can look at it from a different perspective. One which, as I said before, and I can only repeat myself, one that is showing you the hidden message within. Otherwise, it's just like letting it all happen again. Otto always told me, I'm not going to empathize with your victimhood identity, because I love to lick my wounds, and to go over and over again the same painful situation. And he said, no, we don't do that. However, I am going to empathize with your breakthrough, because that gives you the power, because that's when you understand that it's in your hands to change the past. yes, we can change the past. We can change it in our minds. And that's why I started with the sentence, we are at the mercy of our minds, because a lot of hard, painful stuff happens in life. I'm not trying to bring anyone down. It's the truth, it happens. And how you look at it and how you process it is going to make all the difference in your present and in your future. And that's why I dare to say that you can change the past. And when something very painful happens, we only tend to see that, the negative in the situation, and we judge the positive. We don't see it actually, because we not only judge the positive, but we also judge the form in which it's presented to us. Let's say somebody hurts me, and actually I expect appreciation, because to me the opposite of hurt is appreciation. And I expect the appreciation from the person who's hurting me, but I'm not going to get it from there. However, I might get it from somewhere else, but I don't see it because I'm too overwhelmed by the pain. And this is what this method can help you realize. Okay, so understanding the concept that not only can you change the past, but you can learn to appreciate the negative emotions that you face on an everyday basis is a huge step. And living according to this is the most difficult thing that I've ever done in my entire life, honestly. But since I've tried it, and it worked already in some areas of my life, I dare to stand here in front of you and tell you it's possible. I've seen more difficult cases than my own. We tend to think that our problems are the biggest, which is natural because this is how we work. But Otto, he invited me to assist some of his coaching sessions. And we were talking to some clients who agreed to my presence. And not only agreed to my presence, but they also wanted their coaching sessions to be filmed because they wanted to help other people who struggle with the same issue. And actually, when you see someone having a breakthrough from being raped for over a decade by a family member, then you're overwhelmed, then you're humbled. I remember I cried for hours in a row. I couldn't believe it, it's possible, but it is. And months later, 3 months later actually, she called again and she didn't fall back. She really actually managed to change how she looked at that period of her life. So, you can make the decision. Like you can stick your head in the sand or you can stick it out. It's up to you. It's neither good or bad, it's just the way it is. It's up to you, it's your decision. But if you notice behavior and patterns in your life, let's say you always go into relationships and then there's always the same kind of painful outcome, or let's say you go to work and then somehow in your workplace you always end up in the same weird situations, no matter the company, then it means that you can do something about it. But it's up to you. And the very good news and the very bad news, may I say, or positive or negative news is that we get what we are. I don't know if you understand this, but everything that we have in our lives now is basically a perfect match to what we are. But, and I think, I look at it already as a good news, because if there's something I don't like, after I freak out a couple of times, I return to my questions and to my method, and I do everything possible in order to alter this experience, to change it. Because I'm not blaming anybody else anymore. I'm trying to understand what my contribution is in the situation. I try to understand what my responsibility is. And this is what we do in Gestalt coaching. We identify the barriers, the fences that we create around ourselves. Because when we see what we are doing to ourselves, then we have the possibility to go where we want to be. If we stick our head in the sand, then we don't see the lesson, we don't see the path, we don't see the possibility, and then we're just stuck. So freedom does not mean running away or hiding away. Freedom means getting real to ourselves. And so the only thing that we have to do, and take this thought with you when you go home, and make a decision about what you would like to think. Because thoughts create emotions. It's not the other way around. What you believe is going to cause your emotions. For instance, if something good happens to me, I feel good. If something bad happens to me, I feel bad. And this is the fastest and shortest way to become a puppet that life pushes around. And because we believe in good and bad, because we believe in right and wrong, because we believe in it's normal, it's not normal, our emotions are going to follow. And then, there you go. You have a lot of pain. So what do? You force yourself into positive thinking, you take drugs, you drink alcohol, and that will give you some temporary relief. It will even give you motivation, but it's going to be only going to be so long until you fall back into the same behavior patterns that you're so used to. The best thing, and Otto always told me, and I didn't believe him, but I had to realize, that all the things that we love about ourselves the most, and all the things that have served us the most so far, they were all created in painful situations. Think about it when you go home, seriously, and you are going to realize what I'm talking about. I believe the most liberating thing we can do is getting real to ourselves. Why? Because when we are real, we give ourselves the opportunity to become who we were meant to become. We are going to live life on our full potential. And we can choose to live the life that we want to live. So I went to Barcelona because I wanted to learn how to surf. And I ended up surfing my emotions. And you know what the reward for that was? Freedom. Thank you.